A little secret safe with me. Oh, little secret. You and me for just one night. So please, baby, let's do it right. Oh, I'm gonna keep it. And I know your lips still tight, but not tighter than the grip that I feel tonight. So from a step in the place, you say, oh, me no text, you say, oh, me no call you. Say me just a go on like me no bother want you. Baby no go on with the one bag of drama. You know say me nah give me love to another. See it say you vex and you want big fight. Babes are the sex so me want ignite. Maybe we argue after round 5 and see if you feel the same way inside. If I want you pre don't bother me, cause stress and pain is a bad habit. First to the face, hear the voice, and I don't know, say I coach for the coach Xerox channel, and today we have the deadly civil war in Toronto, Jane and Finch. Bro, I'm sure this is not the first video we watch concerning Jane and Finch on this channel. Still, I'm sure even Toronto. I'm sure we'll watch something else about Toronto on this channel, or maybe I'll just watch it in my free time. But still, we have a kid nerd video. You know how long we don't react to some kid nerd? It's been a while, bro, and his videos always slap. Him always have some very, in-depth information where I have to wonder, were you there while this was happening, bro? How you know all of this? But you know what I'm saying? I just want to jump into it, man. Long time we don't react to some kid nerds. I just want to jump into it. Let's hit the like button, jump in the comments, and subscribe. Subscribe to me. What, 4.8k subs? We need to hit 5. I didn't make it live, so just 200 people. The same, probably the 200 people that's watching this. Just subscribe, bro. You know what I'm saying? What's wrong with you?
Now, a lot of people all over the world have probably all heard of or listened to artists like Drake, Tory Lanez or The Weeknd, but a lot of people probably don't know much about the big city they grew up in. Today, we'll be looking at the streets of Toronto and how it was a miracle that the artists I just named managed to make it out. Let's get into the video. Before I get into this one, guys, today we are running another giveaway, this time for an iPhone 14 Pro, and I'm giving this away to a random subscriber of my channel, which comments the letters KN on Jay Busy's latest release called Noid. Make sure you keep posted on my Instagram in the description to see if you've won.
I don't really give a toss, I know they're pretty annoyed. Isolate through winter, then step out in the Mercedes coupe. The twins move so aggy, they twinning in BMWs.
That's a very good idea still, for some promotion stuff. Have somebody like raid your video and comment a whole heap of, yeah, that's very smart. Big up Kid Nerd for that. Let's jump into the video.
So like I said before, we are going inside Canada. As a whole, Canada has always struggled with being overlooked in the music scene, especially in hip-hop. Before the late 2000s, the only type of Canadian-born music that really managed to hit mainstream was coming from the rock genre, with Canadian artists like Avril Lavigne and groups like Nickelback dominating the charts in the early 2000s. It would take all the way up to the early 2010s, when Canada's first global hip-hop success would be found. But before we get into all of this about the come-ups of Toronto rappers, let's look into the dangerous streets young Toronto rappers have to come up on. And one of the most notorious areas in the Greater Toronto area is around an hour away from downtown Toronto, in a neighborhood called Jane and Finch. When outsiders look at Toronto, it's easy to focus on the big skyscrapers and modern buildings in downtown Toronto. But Toronto is a massive city, with it being around 4.5 times bigger than London. So far away from all the modern and exciting inner city, there's areas like Jane and Finch. Now, Jane and Finch doesn't have the best reputation in Toronto. It's quite notorious for being a low income and crime-ridden neighborhood, to say the least. And a lot of this is due to a big divide in the neighborhood, which has haunted the area in the last few decades. See, Jane and Finch isn't seen as one whole area. The neighborhood has been split into two sides, one being North Jane and Finch, and the other being South.
Wow, and he even has, there's a janeandfinch.com. Jane and Finch hood map. What? Bro, I feel like I'm in GTA right now, bro. What you mean?
has been split into two sides, one being North Jane and Finch and the other being South Jane and Finch, and both sides don't have the best relationship with each other. Dating all the way back to the 90s, there's always been a big rivalry between both sides. There's been many attempts throughout the years to die down tensions, like one concert in 2001 which was held to bring both sides under one roof, but this didn't end well, with two men being shot dead when the concert came to an end. See, Jane and Finch's gang history.
They literally had a concert to bring them together and people still got it cracking at the concert. That's why, you know, just lower the peace talks, bro, leave it.
Runs real deep. The north side of Jane and Finch are Crips and the south side are Bloods. And as you probably know, Bloods and Crips normally don't have the best relationship. So let's first look at north side Jane and Finch, home to the Crips. Now, just like there are two sides of Jane and Finch, there are also a lot of small residential areas inside the neighborhood. There are still some residences inside Jane that don't get along with other residences inside their own half of the neighborhood. One residence, which is probably the most infamous inside North Jane and Finch, is an area called Driftwood. Now, Driftwood is home to the first big music movement coming out of Jane and Finch from some Driftwood Crips who now go by the name of Wasgang, and the first artist to really put on for the group was a Driftwood artist called Robin Banks, who burst onto the scene in early 2015 with songs like Up Next, which pioneered a new trap wave sound to Toronto. But it wouldn't be long until someone from Robin Banks' crew would be brought to national attention after a Crip from Driftwood called Wassy was shot dead on July 25th, 2015. Wassy grew up in the Driftwood area, but early on in life started finding himself in trouble with the law, which led him to being in and out of jail from a young age. But on June 28th, 2015, Wassy would take his life of crime to the next level. Around 6 AM, Wassy and his friend would find themselves going to an apartment party near downtown Toronto, but it would only be an hour after the two stepping in the party that, according to Wassy's friend, Wassy took interest at another party goer's gold watch and chain. An altercation happened which ended with two men being shot dead and Wassy and his friend making a run for it. Wassy and his friend became main suspects for the murder after CCTV footage was found of the pair leaving the apartment straight after the murder. CCTV footage even captured Wassy and his friend reenacting the murder while they was leaving the apartment in the lift. Wassy's friend handed himself in after they were wanted, but Wassy had other ideas and went on the run. Most people, when they're on the run for a murder, they would normally hide out or move to a low-key part of the country, or even attempt to leave the country completely. But Wassy had different plans and was just living like any other person in the city would, going clubbing in downtown Toronto and still enjoying life. But this was short-lived. With less than a month after the double murder, there were reports that Wassy was inside a club in Toronto, and in no time, several undercover officers were waiting outside the club, ready to catch him. Wassy left the club and got into a car, and this was when undercover officers made their move, blocking in the vehicle. But stuff went left when shots started firing between the police officers and Wassy, with a shot ending up hitting Wassy in the chest, sadly killing him. Wassy was loved and respected a lot, especially in his Driftwood area, with Robin Banks and his crew even renaming their music group to Wasgang in remembrance to him, and a lot of members even started rocking gold chains with a pendant of his face on it. Wassy's crazy story brought a lot of attention towards North Jane and Finch, and there was only more attention to the area after another double murder took place and after party of the biggest Toronto rapper Drake's OVO festival. Every year, Drake holds a massive only more attention to the area after another double murder took place and after party of the biggest Toronto rapper Drake's OVO festival. Every year, Drake holds a massive festival in Toronto and invites some of the biggest artists to perform to his home city, creating one of the biggest events in Toronto. And the nightclub in Toronto called Music Nightclub was hosting the after party, which a few high profile people were attending. But somehow, despite all the security and police guarding the club, someone managed to get inside the club and let off several shots, hitting a man who went by the name of Slugger, killing him inside the club. After the shots, people started to disperse outside the club, but shooting continued outside, with several shots hitting random civilians trying to escape the carnage. Sadly, one of these shots ended up hitting a young woman who was desperately trying to get into a cab to escape the bullets. Slugger was linked to the Crips in an area called Rexdale, who have a feud with the Crips in Driftwood. Now, a few months after this week of madness, Christmas, Robin Banks alongside some of his friends from Driftwood dropped a song which blew up more than they probably thought. The song named Was Gang dropped in November 2015 and quickly amassed more. The song named Was Gang,
That's Pressa under. That's probably where you hear Pressa's first like high pitch voice.
dropped in November 2015 and quickly amassed millions of views on YouTube, bringing listeners from all over the world in probably their first introduction into real Toronto street music, showcasing the world to Robin Banks and another rapper who soon after would take over the Toronto rap game called Pressa. In this song, Pressa really stood out over everyone else with his unique high-pitched voice and baby face, creating an early buzz for himself. Pressa started making more noise in 2016, releasing songs like and TBH getting millions of views. But before Pressa even picked up a mic, he was already well known in Jane and Finch. Less than 2 months of being born, Pressa's dad hit national news after he got into an altercation with a security guard after he was angry waiting in a line for too long outside the party. After a while of waiting, he calmly went to his car to grab a gun and shot the security guard in the chest, killing him. Pressa's dad ended up getting 15 years to life for this murder before Pressa even properly started in life, leaving Pressa's mum to attempt to take care of him and his older brother alone. But with Pressa growing up in the streets of Driftwood without having a proper father figure with him, led him and his older brother to get involved in crime.
Pressa in that long time video?
To take care of him and his older brother alone. But with Pressa growing up in the streets of Driftwood without having a proper father figure with him, led him and his older brother to get involved in crime from an early age. In 2011, this caught up to Pressa and his older brother, with both of them getting caught up in a gang takedown, dubbed Project Marvel, which took down 60 alleged violent gang members around the Driftwood area. Pressa's brother was actually labelled the leader of the gang in the area, and Pressa himself was treated as the second in command, despite him only being around 15 at the time. Pressa's brother would end up getting sentenced to 10 years for gun, drug and gang charges, and Pressa ended up spending a little bit of time inside himself. But in 2016, Pressa started making a new avenue for himself, with him quickly being quite a big music figure in the Toronto scene. But it wouldn't be long before Pressa will be wrapped up into another case that could have easily ended his career short. A few months after Pressa dropped probably his biggest solo track at the time, called Demiana, Was Gang were throwing an apartment party in downtown Toronto when an opposing gang crashed the party. This led to a shootout between the two groups in the corridor of the apartment, leading all the way to the elevators of the apartment. Not long after this, allegedly Was Gang members invited over two 17-year-old boys to an apartment who they thought tipped off their ops about their party. When the two boys got to the apartment, they were subjected to some quite crazy stuff. It was said they were tied to a chair so they couldn't escape and were regularly beaten. They were even forced to play Russian roulette with a loaded handgun. This went on for around 48 hours until they moved to another location, which even happened to be one of the kidnappers' home addresses. While one of the kidnappers' family was still inside and living inside the property, it was claimed that the two boys were even forced to do sexual acts on each other. The kidnappers, after some time, demanded the family members of the two boys for $3,000 for their release and a further $10,000 for the videos of them two doing sexual acts not to be posted online, which was eventually paid out and the boys were released. Now Pressa actually got charged for this kidnapping case a few days after the release of the two boys, but managed to bail out while police were still collecting evidence and everything. And when Pressa came out, he started showing that he wasn't playing around with his music career, dropping tracks throughout the rest of 2016, hitting millions of views, which at this point was hella rare for a Canadian rapper. Drake even co-signed Pressa, eventually taking him out to tour with him in Europe, leading everyone in Canada to think that they have a new superstar on their hands. Robin Banks was also doing his thing, dropping tracks like Priceless, which was easily one of the hottest tracks coming out of Toronto in 2016, and Robin Banks continued to drop bangers in the first half of 2017. On the 14th of April 2017, Robin Banks' music career was put on hold. Robin Banks' friend was celebrating his birthday in a shisha bar up in the city, so Banks pulled up to the bar to show some love to his friend, but someone in the bar car must have gave the drop that robbing Banks was there, because when Banks and some of his friends went outside the bar to smoke, 2 men were waiting outside in a blacked out car and let off several shots hitting 3 people, but mostly targeting Robin Banks. Banks was shot 9 times in his legs, stopping him from being able to run away from the shots, but a final shot to the neck dropped him to the ground, and Robin Banks was rushed to hospital in a life-threatening condition. When the news came out, quite a few reports on social media were claiming that Robin Banks had lost his life to the shots, but luckily Banks managed to power through, eventually waking up a couple days afterwards thanks to his treatment. Banks started doing well in hospital and friends and family were looking forward to a full recovery, but around a month later, the news broke that Robin Banks may never be able to walk again, with shots to his legs literally crippling him, leaving him in a wheelchair. But this didn't stop him, with him still releasing tracks and continuing to grow his up top label despite him literally being paralysed, which is quite inspiring. But Robin Banks was left with a better fate than a lot of rappers in his area.
Nah, man. Stay inside, bro. My God. Low the partying, bro. Like, just low it.
So throughout the years, it's had quite a bad luck with their rappers. It kinda seems like there's a curse going round. Anytime it looks like a rapper is on his way up, they always end up dying or getting caught up in a really bad case. Back around the same time, Pressa was arrested for his kidnapping case. A new up and coming rapper from a nearby opposing area to Wasgang, called Sizzlack, was shot and killed days after he released his biggest track called Realist in the Sits. Another rapper from the same area as Sizzlack was also shot dead in 2017 called Young Dubs. Around the same time of Young Dubs' murder, another Wasgang rapper called YG was a top suspect in a shooting which left an opposing gang member dead, and he went on the run to America. And yet again, another Wasgang rapper by the name of FB was remanded for a case where him and 3 other men allegedly ran up in a legal marijuana dispensary, pistol whipped a worker, and tying up any staff members inside the shop in plastic restraints until the police pulled up and they escaped. But one of the biggest losses to come from the Toronto rap scene came on June the 30th, 2018, a rapper called Smoke Dog. Now in 2018, Smoke Dog was one of the biggest things coming out of Toronto. He was coming out of a neighborhood called Regent Park, located in downtown Toronto. But despite Regent Park being just minutes away from the rich and thriving center of the city, and even Regent Park itself being redeveloped into quite an impressive area, it still contains quite a few low-income residents who are left to try and keep up with the pretty much unaffordable cost of living in downtown Toronto. Now in June 2018, Smoke Dog alongside his manager went to a nightclub called Cube, and everything seemed alright. But when Smoke Dog was outside the club, he got into an argument with a Wasgang rapper called 21 Neat, which ended with Smoke Dog alongside his manager being shot dead. It's rumoured that 21 Neat mocked Smoke Dog just before this incident due to Smoke Dog's chain being robbed recently before, and then after this all hell just broke loose. 21 Neat went on the run all the way to the other side of Canada, but was eventually caught and found guilty of second-degree murder. Now this whole situation was kinda weird because Wasgang's area, Driftwood, and Smoke Dog's area, Regent Park, didn't really seem to have much issues with each other prior to this murder. Like, both areas are easily around 30 to 45 minutes away from each other, and the Driftwood rapper Pressa and Smoke Dog seem to have a good relationship with each other, with them both being part of Drake's European tour and being seen in several pictures with each other. But the murder of Smoke Dog caused tension between both Regent Park and Driftwood, and the response to this was worse than anyone expected. By 2020, long after his kidnapping charges were dropped, Pressa took his music career to the next level and had moved out to Los Angeles ready to take on the US music scene. And it was seeming like another rapper coming straight out of Driftwood was looking to join him soon, called Houdini. Houdini was creating a crazy buzz in Toronto, with tracks like Late Night, which is on now 11 million views. You could really tell Houdini was taking his music career serious as well when he moved to the other side of Canada in a city called Vancouver so he could be closer to LA where he was networking. And anytime he was in Canada, he would stay well away from Toronto. But deep into COVID times in 2020, after several months away away from his family, he decided it was time to go visit them in Toronto during the Easter period. During his time back in the city, he was staying at his friend's Airbnb in downtown Toronto, but on May 26th, tragedy struck. Word got around that Houdini was back in the city, and when Houdini and a couple friends were out and about in the center of the city, a rented blue Volkswagen managed to lock onto the vehicle Houdini had been traveling in, and waited around 40 minutes for Houdini and his friends to go back into his car. When Houdini walked past the blue Volkswagen, the Volkswagen U-turned and started letting off shots into Houdini and his friends. Houdini started running for his life immediately, while one of his friends was shooting back at the attackers. But it was clear that Houdini was the car's target, with the car catching up to Houdini and the shooter jumping out to get some more shots off onto him. The scene just looked like a complete mess. Shots were flying everywhere in broad daylight, with civilians in full view. One woman was even hit by a stray bullet. All of this being in the entertainment district of Toronto. In London terms, this is just like a broad daylight shootout happening in Mayfair. It's just something that should not be happening. Houdini managed to get to a nearby alleyway, but by this time he was already shot, which he sadly didn't survive from. This was a big blow to the Toronto scene, and a lot of big rappers paid homage to Houdini, who died way too soon. Houdini had a memorial take place the next month to celebrate his life, which obviously Houdini's friends and family attended, alongside quite a few Was Gang members. But the word came out about the funeral, and a couple uninvited guests pulled up. A massive shootout happened where more than 60 shots were fired, but luckily no one suffered any serious injuries from the shot. Two Was Gang members called Burner Bands and GD were arrested for the shooting despite them only defending themselves, leading Regent Park and Driftwood to fully start feuding with each other, all stemming from 21 Neat's murder of Smoke Dog. 21 Neat also has a blood brother part of Was Gang who goes by the name of 22 Neat. But just like 21 Neat, 22's story doesn't end quite well. 22 Neat's sad story started after allegedly another Was Gang rapper called YS, alongside another member called Flipper, were allegedly paid to execute a member of a Canadian mafia. A month after this murder, the Was Gang rapper YS was found dead himself in the execution style murder, all the way on the other side of Canada. Now allegedly 22 Neat had something to do with this murder, and a couple days after 22 Neat was found dead himself, in quite a crazy month of events. Now we're in 2023, and Jana Finch are left wondering how big some of these artists could have been if they stayed alive.
You know?
Press is still holding it down for the north side of Jana Finch, setting up camp in LA and still releasing good music. Robin Banks doesn't release too much anymore, focusing on other ventures while still being paralyzed. Another Was Gang rapper who went by the name Tool Up Twin was a victim of a triple murder inside an apartment party in downtown Toronto.
It's always these parties, you know, I tell him, like, leave the party alone.
Even alleged that he actually killed the two other victims in the triple murder and then shot himself in the head after realizing what he had done.
Wow.
But he still has a twin that still raps till this day. The south side of Jana Finch has always struggled a bit with producing big rappers. One rapper which has seen quite a bit of success is a rapper called LB Spiffy, who was actually one of the first underground Toronto rappers I've listened to back in 2017 to 18. Another up and coming rapper coming out of South Jane was NHS JJ, but sadly yet again he was a victim of a murder in 2020. But the hottest rapper coming out of South Jane is definitely a rapper called Doovie, who started seeing nationwide success after his hit single called Nightmares. Hopefully we start to see more underground Toronto rappers making it out of Toronto like Presser, and let me know in the comments if you want me to cover any more crazy Canadian stories. But for now, it's been your boy Kid Nerd, and peace out.
Yeah, man. One thing they showed me, low the partying, bro. Low going outside where people go and see you, where you're out in your chains and your drip, and you know people can take pictures of you and give people the drop. You know what I'm saying? If you can't go ball it up, if you can't sneak in through the back door, and you know what I'm saying, get a private section, and even then, you never know who is watching you from just stepping into the place, from just driving up, like. You can't even enjoy life. Once you was living a certain type of life before, it's like you can't enjoy life now and go outside like a regular civilian, a regular celebrity, or a regular person. Cause you're not, bro. You're a target, and you have to think that you're a target every day. My God, man. That's why I have to stay inside, you know, bro. I don't want to be no target, man. I'ma stay inside and just do my thing and watch these videos that make me want to stay inside even more. You understand? But still, we got a insight on what's going on in Toronto, or what's been going on in Toronto. So big up Kid Nerd for this, for the deadly civil war in Toronto, Jane and Finch. I like this video. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if you don't like it. Let me know what else you want to see me react to. Let's hit the like button, jump into the comments, and subscribe. Subscribe to me. Gonna say them out, man.
A little secret safe with me. Oh, little secret. You and me for just one night. So please, baby, let's do it right. Oh, I'm gonna keep it. And I know your lips still tight, but not tighter than the grip that I feel tonight. So from a step in the place. Me no text, say oh me no call you. Say me just a go on like me no bother want you. Baby no go on with the one bag of drama. You know say me nah give me love to another. See it say you vex and you want big fight. Babes are the sex so me want ignite. Maybe we argue after round 5 and see if you feel the same way inside. If I want you, pre don't bother me, cause stress and pain is a bother bit.